Marshall was in the business of God's work. Dubbed Mr. Civil Rights, the entirety of his career was about individual rights and securing justice and equal treatment for all. I would like to share some quick thoughts with you of Thurgood Marshall through the perspective of three virtues: faith, hope, and love. Faith and hope are extremely intertwined. Possibly the most well definition of faith is found in Hebrews 11, verse 1. It says, faith is the substance of things hoped for. And you can see from this short description of faith that one cannot settle on what faith is or what faith means without knowing what hope is or what hope means. I was fortunate once to read from a resource online, a Christian resource, the following about hope. Hope is a condition for faith. Without hope, there is nothing hoped for, and therefore there is no faith. The word hope carries a connotation of positivity, the idea that it will be well when all is said and done. Now, this resource went further to say on hope, that hope is an anchor for the soul. Hope is a positive expectation of good. It is not itself faith, but it keeps us in the place where we can have faith. Hope keeps us in the place where we can have faith. We know that Justice Marshall traveled from place to place in the South, working on his various civil rights cases. And not only did he have to be persuasive in the courtrooms time and again, but he also worked to persuade the black community that the way to lasting realization of equal rights for them was through the courts and not through demonstrations of protest. I cannot imagine that Thurgood Marshall would have been able to convince anyone in those days that the fight for civil rights and justice would be secured in the courts and not on the streets if he did not infuse a healthy dose of hope into the conversation. At the end, Thurgood Marshall was indeed a hopeful man in the matter of his life's work. As he neared the end of his tenure on the Supreme Court, the court was conservative and of course was handing down conservative opinions. Thurgood Marshall has been described at that time in his career as an isolated, unrelenting liberal on the court, known for his strong, scathing dissent. There you go. I'm getting to that. No, you are just right. One of the key lessons that I learned as a law student and has stuck for quite a while is to ask the question, why? So to the point, why was he seen as an unrelenting purveyor of strong dissent? In an interview, he was asked what he thought about the importance of dissent, and he responded like this: well, much of Justice Brandeis's dissents are now the law. That's the answer. I hope that some of my dissents will become the law in the future. I hope they will. I hope people can start thinking the way I think. So as he wrote his dissents, he did so in the hope that they might someday become the law of the land. And therefore he did so unrelenting. If we are unrelenting in our hope, and if hope keeps us in the place where we can have faith, then I think we all would do very well to emulate Justice Marshall's example and practice of hope. Now, on to faith. I am but an attorney, so I'm not going to get into deep discussions about faith. I will leave that to our able rector, and I will just give you this one brief statement about faith. James chapter 2 and 26 says, as the body without the spirit is dead, so faith without deeds is dead. So I refer back to the resource that I read from earlier, and this is what it says about faith. Living faith always has corresponding actions. We talk what we really believe, and we act according to what we really believe. The heroes of faith, like Abraham, were considered men of faith because they acted on what God showed them. They acted on their faith. Now, clearly, civil rights work was Justice Marshall's calling, and I believe that God predestined Justice Marshall for this work. Here's a very interesting account from his days in Frederick Douglass High School in Baltimore. The young Marshall was described by his biographer as the kid who would have a comic book in his back pocket, chewing gum, and smoking a cigarette. Therefore, it turns out that the young Marshall was no stranger to the basement. And from the sounds of it, that was where detention was meted out. For a young lad who would go on to become the premier civil rights lawyer of all time and build an outstanding, one-of-a-kind career focused on interpreting the Constitution, it so happened that when Marshall would get into trouble, he was sent to the basement with a copy of the Constitution and was forced to memorize the Constitution. So how ironic that what was done for him as punishment was probably the best thing that could have been done for him. Or if you ask me, I'll say that God works in mysterious ways. After he graduated law school, Howard Law, he opened his law practice. And as it turns out, as great as he was in his first year, he was in debt to the tune of $3,500, which at that time was probably no small amount. And even today, having run my own law practice, I don't want to lose any money. Then Justice Marshall heeded God's call and stepped right into action to New York to work for the NAACP. God is so good and worthy to be trusted because it was after Justice Marshall stepped into his calling that everything that he is now currently renowned for and all his success began to unfold. Now, where would I begin in talking about how hard Justice Marshall had to work? When he started working for the NAACP, the NAACP at that time did not have much by way of staff or administrative help, so Justice Marshall wore all the hats and worked many, many long hours as a result. From constantly traveling for work, meeting with hundreds of potential clients, evaluating the facts of each case, and methodically selecting which cases to take on, preparing his arguments, writing and filing briefs, arguing cases, while all the while looking over his shoulder for threats to his life. It is reported in his biography that while he was traveling for work, often he would not take off his work clothes before bed in case he got to see at a moment's notice in the middle of the night. Justice Marshall was constantly doing something for the cause of civil rights. It is reported that when his first wife, Vivian Beery, died from cancer shortly after his victory in Brown versus Board of Education, Justice Marshall was not able to take any time to mourn his loss because he was immediately thrust back onto the circuit, having to go to local courtrooms and arguing to the judges to follow the new ruling of Brown. Justice Marshall acted fearlessly on his faith. Love. We just heard a little bit about love, about how love hopes all things and love endures all things. Justice Marshall has also been referred to as the voice of compassion on the bench. His rulings have included affirmative action for blacks and other minorities, protections for immigrants, for women, prisoners, and those accused of crimes, and support for the mentally handicapped. And through the years, he has staunchly opposed the death penalty. One of Justice Marshall's more popular and controversial moments involved his remarks about the Constitution and the framers during the bicentennial celebration of the Constitution in May 1987. In explaining the compromises that were made by the framers in drafting the Constitution, Justice Marshall stated that the framers sacrificed moral principles for self-interest, and that the government that was formed as a result was defective from the start. So you can imagine how that played out. Well, to my greater point, he went further to express his desire for sensitivity towards those who might not share the same excitement and enthusiasm about the celebration, but would rather, in his words, quietly commemorate suffering, struggle, and sacrifice that has triumphed over much of what was wrong with the original document, and observe the anniversary with hopes not realized and promises not fulfilled. Last year at this same service, Judge Livingston cautioned us repeatedly, saying, "We are headed in the wrong direction." Well, look at our America today. Hashtag please don't officers chasing down unarmed black men and using them, if you ask me, for target practice. And hashtag I can't breathe conjures up images of defenseless black men being choked to death by the authorities. I imagine that Justice Marshall would be saddened, perplexed, or maybe not even surprised by